All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Lilette, and I will be your host for this monthly IDP IELTS Writing Workshop. I'm based in Singapore, and of course, together with my co-hosts from other countries as well in Southeast Asia. So first, let me introduce our co-host from Indonesia. Hi, William.
Hello everyone, I'm William from IDP Indonesia. Nice to meet you.
Okay, yeah. And then also we have our representative from IDP Philippines. Hi, Patrick. Please welcome our participants today.
Hi, Lilith. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the participants for this writing webinar. And I hope that you will learn a lot to this IELTS expert who will be discussing IELTS writing tonight. Thank you, Ms. Lilith.
All right, thank you so much. And let me just turn on our chat box. So I guess everyone is already sending their messages now. All right, it's on, so you can say hi through the chat box. And yeah, so let me proceed. So for those who have joined our masterclass last Monday, is there anyone from last Monday's masterclass who's joining again today? Would you mind if you want, you can just raise your hand or maybe just say yes or why on the chat box. All right, Unita, welcome back. Anyone anymore? Is it only Unita Halim? Hi, Unita, you're from... All right, we also have Tariq. Unita is from Indonesia. Welcome. Welcome back. Okay, so I guess we also have attendees raising their hands. So we have Farah, Jay, Wilda, and a lot more of you are a lot of you joined the Monday masterclass already. So basically, what are the difference? First thing, last Monday in the masterclass, you were helped about the listening, reading, writing, and speaking, which are the 4 skills of IELTS. This time around, we will focus on writing alone. So maybe since you were here last Monday, you may know by now our IELTS expert. So she's the returning IELTS expert from last Monday masterclass. So for the benefit of those first-time joiner, let me give you some very quick information about our presenter today. So she is a highly trained educator who has been teaching the English language and IELTS preparation at tertiary institutions here in Singapore for the past 20 years. So besides having a master's degree in education from the State University of Buffalo, yes, USA, you're right, guys. She's also an expert in coaching writing skills and has helped set up a writing center in one of the universities she's lecturing in. Today, she will be walking you, all of us, through IELTS writing for academic and general training. So keep your ears open for some amazing tips. So when we say writing, academic, and general training, that means task 1 and task 2. All right. So for those who are joining us via Facebook Live, please leave your comment on the comment section, and I will read this out to our IELTS expert at the end of the session. And for everyone who are joining here in Zoom, all right, you can write your questions and queries at the chat or the Q&A section. All right, so without further ado, let us all welcome our returning IELTS expert, Meiko. Over to you, May. Hi, May, you're on mute. All right, cool.
Thanks, Lilette, for the introduction, and welcome everyone to our writing webinar. And for those of you who were here on Monday, we had a good session. So hopefully today this will be as useful for you too. As we said, there will be a Q&A session at the end, so you can keep your questions till the end if you wish. If there's a chance for me to answer them in the middle, I can do that as well. So either way is fine. Okay. I'm not sure, Lila, if there is any polling at the end, but if there is, please keep an eye out for that. Okay. Oh, here it is. Should they fill this in now? Yeah.
Yes, it's all about the participants today.
Sure. Okay, so a large number of you haven't taken this test before. And most of you need 6 and higher, or 7, band score 7 and higher, which is quite usual. That's usual. And most of you are doing the academic test. Okay, so good. All right. That's interesting. The data. Okay. Sorry, just moving. Yeah. So most of you seem to be interested in academic tests. So that's good. We will discuss that. All right. So tonight we're just going to be talking about the academic, the writing test, which is 60 minutes in which you need to do 2 tasks. Okay. So I'm going to try to share with you, some of the tips, tell you a little bit about what each part is. So some of this is, from Monday's session as well, but again, we can discuss it in more detail. So basically, the writing in both the academic and general training involves 2 tasks. The first task, we call it task 1, and it's a shorter task, and task 2 is the longer task. The shorter task, task 1, you have to write a minimum of 150 words. That's a minimum, not a maximum. Task 2, you have to write 250 words. Okay, so just keep that in mind, that the test will be given to you, both questions will be given to you in that 60 minutes, and you decide how long you're going to spend on each part of each task. Okay, so you have to control your time well here in the writing. Ideally, task 1 should take only 20 minutes, and task 2 should take the bulk of the time, which is 40 minutes. That's our recommendation. But sorry, just going back. So task 1, just a reminder, in the academic test, task 1 is a piece of visual information that they will give you. This information could be in the form of tables, charts, graphs, diagrams, or flow charts, maps, and so on. So anything that is called visual information, some of it will have data in it, like numbers and statistics. Others might not, like others like process will involve steps in making something or doing something. But basically your job is to summarize what you see and any trends that you might see there. Okay, that's for task 1 academic. Now the task 2 is an essay where you give your opinion on a topic that they ask you, that they give you. Okay. Now, you will see here that general training is also something that's 150 words minimum, but in general training, you only have to write a letter. Okay, so there's a very strict format to that. But basically what they're looking for is your ability to produce a written piece of work based on very specific requirements and instructions. Okay, so that means that you have to pay close attention to what they're asking you to do and keep to the task, and don't deviate from what they ask you to do. Okay, so 150 words minimum for the task 1, for both task 1. Now, general training and academic task 2 is very similar, so we can discuss it together. Basically, it's an essay based on some arguable topic, a topic in which you give an opinion, and that one is minimum 250 words. Okay, so what I'll do is first things first is to go through how you'll be scored. Okay, so there are 4 components in which you're scored, and these 4 components are weighted equally. All right, so that means if you do well on all of them, that's great. If you don't do so well on one of the one of these criteria, then it will pull the rest of your scores down. Okay, so the first of these is called task achievement or response. So task achievement is for task 1. Task response is for the task 2, but basically both both of these task achievement and response is asking you, is checking whether you have met the requirements that they have outlined in the question. Okay, so it's important that you read the question carefully before you answer, obviously. The next one is coherence and cohesion. Now, coherence and cohesion just means how well have you organized your sentences into paragraphs, and how well have you organized your paragraphs so that the reader can easily follow the way that you are thinking, right? So if you make an argument or you state some kind of trends, how have you laid this information out for people? This includes paragraphing. It also includes connecting words, use of words like, therefore, however, the linking words used in appropriate places to link sentences or to link paragraphs. Okay. Lexical resource is just vocabulary. Vocabulary, if you want the higher scores, like 7 and above, you need to be using sort of more sophisticated phrases instead of just single words. And there should be very little repetition in terms of the words that you're using in your writing. Okay, if you use certain phrases or words over and over again, it would show the examiners that you don't have a wide vocabulary, and that's why you have to keep going back to the same phrases. Okay. Grammatical range and accuracy is the fourth one, and that one is a very big, important one. Obviously, if you have errors, several errors in one sentence, that's a problem. Or if you have errors every other word, then that's really problematic. This includes sentence structure. So if your sentence structure is incorrect, this might include things like, spelling. The spelling does have an effect in terms of people reading. So basically, how much does the error in this place, in this particular category, prevent people from really understanding what you're trying to say? So here are the 4 different areas that you'll be scored. Now, just a quick question to pose all of you. Which of these areas do you think you can guarantee yourself the best score? Which of these 4 do you think on the day of the test itself that you think you have the most control over and that you think you could do well in? Anyone? You can put it in the chat, put up your hand. Which one of these? Anyone? Okay, somebody's task achievement response. Okay, most of you are saying task achievement and response, and you're right. Why is task achievement the easier one to score? Because you know exactly what the question's asking, and as long as you give them exactly what they've asked for, you should be able to get a good score for that part. Okay. Now, I would say that the most difficult one, of course, to score is grammatical range and accuracy. That takes time. Like if you have problems with grammar and stuff, it takes time to fix that, and it takes time and effort. You have to, get yourself an English tutor or someone who can read your work and then, help you to what do you call it? Check the errors and then, what you need to do and so on. So task achievement would be the easiest. Grammatical range and accuracy, probably the most difficult to control. Lexical resource, okay. You need to read, okay, I tell people, okay, reading, writing, listening, and speaking, okay, we separate it for the IELTS test. But in real life, all 4 of these language components, skills are actually used all the time. And we use them interchangeably, and we're sometimes doing multiple things at the same time. So that means that if you want to improve your vocabulary for writing, you need to be reading a lot of English, okay? Reading good text, informational text, because most of the time the writing that you're doing is about factual, or it's more factually based, not telling a story, right? So you should be reading a lot of informational items, right? So that way you can improve your vocabulary. The other thing to do is to improve your vocabulary in many other areas that you think you're not so familiar with. For example, you might be very familiar with the topic of shopping, but if I asked you something about sports, and maybe you don't have a lot of words to describe sport because you're not interested in it, right? So you need to go and read up some things about sports so that you have something to say when the time comes. So vocabulary is something you need to have a store of good vocabulary in a wide variety of topics, okay? Now, coherence and cohesion, I think to some extent that is also highly controllable, because you can simply go online and look for linking words, English linking words, to link your paragraphs and your sentences, and try to use those linking words in your writing, and that will help you a lot. So, you know, if you're good at putting in the linking words, for sure you will get the 6 and above, right? Now let's talk. So what I'm going to do is talk about general training, the general training task 1 first. Okay, so for those of you who are doing general training, now general training task 1, I have to say, is generally easier than the task 1 for academic, but the trick is that you have to really be careful to read the prompt. We don't call it question because they're not necessarily questions. We call it a prompt, meaning it is something given to you to help stimulate your writing, right? To get you writing. So basically, there are 3 things to look for in the prompt. When you look at the prompt, it's very clear that there's a general description of a situation. Then you're given a general instruction, like write to somebody, right? And they'll tell you who. And then there will be specific instructions or the subtasks, right? So let's look at the example here. Okay, so generally in the general training task 1, it's writing a formal letter. Now, occasionally it is a less formal letter, like if they ask you to write to a friend, then you can write in less formal language. But most of the time it will be to a business kind of letter, and so it will be more formal. So the topic here is there have been some problems with public transport in your area recently. Write a letter to the manager of the public transport company. Okay, so here you have a general topic, which is problems with public transport in your area, and no, your area, right? Write a letter to the manager of the public transport company. So it tells you write a letter and then who to write it to, which is the manager. And then in your letter, you need to do these 3 things: describe, explain, and suggest. So it's really important that you pay attention to the verbs about what you're supposed to do for this part, for the details, right? Describe, explain, suggest. Now this letter, you only need to start dear sir or madam, or, you know, a made up name. And then at the end, put yours sincerely or yours faithfully as your closing. That's all you need. You don't need to put addresses or anything like that, okay? Now, in terms of the name, you could make up a name, that's fine. And certain details in this letter can be made up or taken from your actual experience, okay? Yes, Utari, you have a question? You can unmute yourself and ask it quickly. Yes? Hello? Okay, well, I'm gonna go on because, so if you do put up your hand, please make sure that you're ready to unmute so that you can ask your question right away. So let's look at the rules of writing here. So in anything like a letter or email, the first thing you should do is state the purpose, right? You should tell people, I am writing to you to, and what you're writing for. Cover all the bullet points fully. Now, this is a key point. So in the question, it tells you, describe the problems, explain how this affects the public, suggest what changes could be made. You have to cover all these equally. if you describe the problems, at length and then run out of time to explain or suggest or to do the other two, then you will have a low score. Okay, so you have to cover both equally and fully. I think the key word for any of the higher band scores is the word fully or extended, meaning whether it's speaking or writing, you are able to give more than just basic information, right? You should also learn to maintain an appropriate tone throughout, meaning if you decided that this is a formal letter because it's going to somebody in a company and he's the manager, and it's somebody you don't know, you need to make it formal and polite. So your tone should be that way through the whole letter, okay? Do not do sort of formal at the beginning and then less formal toward the end, because sometimes people forget and then they lose the tone, okay? So here's an example. Dear sir, madam, I write to you to draw your attention to recent problems with public transport in Newtown. So that fixes the part about why you are writing. Briefly, and then the next part launches into what the problems are. Describe the problems, right? Briefly, the roadworks along Hill Road have led to long delays in bus services. Furthermore, so words like furthermore are kind of the linking words, right? So furthermore means in addition. The new weekend bus timetable has dramatically reduced the frequency of buses on Sunday mornings. Okay, then you get to the other part. So this part has the part about what's the problem, right? Describe the problem. And then this part gives you how it affects other people, right? It asks you to do that. The effect of these actions becomes very obvious during peak hours on weekdays and the busy shopping hours on Saturday mornings. There's a high level of public concern about the situation. Public transport users in Hill Road find it now takes up to 20 minutes more to travel the length of the road as well. Okay, so again, another connecting word. Shoppers who often travel by bus on Saturday mornings to shop in Newtown find it is now not worth the trouble, leading to a drastic downturn in retail trade in the town. So you notice that there's quite a lot of detail here, high level of public concern. So it shows, that it is a problem. Shoppers, find it now not worth the trouble, leading to a drastic downturn. So phrases like drastic downturn, not worth the trouble, retail trade are good, shows good vocabulary, right? They're very descriptive. Then the third one is give suggestions, right? So may I suggest that buses be rerouted along Great East Roads until road works on Hill Road are complete? I would also recommend a return to the old weekend bus timetable. I'm sure these steps would be warmly welcomed by both users of public transport and local shopkeepers. Yeah, one more point is that there's a kind of a positive ending, right? I'm sure these steps will be warmly welcomed. So you're saying that this is what I suggest. I'm not ordering you to do, but I'm also telling you that if you did this, this would be a good thing. And people here would be very happy about it, right? So what is the highest score for task achievement if you don't cover all the bullet points in your letter? So you can look back in your PDF handout, if you will. I believe it's at the end. There are the band descriptors. You can look at it to see which one set, like what is the level at which highest you can get if you don't cover all the bullet points. Anyone know? Feel free to put in the chat or say it out loud. Okay, 5. Let's see, most of you said 5. Thank you for your responses. Actually, it's lower. If you don't cover all the bullet points, let's say you did 1 or did 2 of them, but you didn't do the third one, you will only get a 4. And 4 is very low, and it will drag you down across all the other components. So just be careful that you don't forget to cover all the bullet points, right? Just some phrases to use phrases that are help you maintain the appropriate tone, like I wish to draw your attention to, furthermore, there's a high level of public concern. instead of saying like people are unhappy, right? That's not very positive. That's not very polite. May I suggest, so we use modals like that to sort of be polite. I would also recommend, okay? And then the end, yours faithfully, comma, there's always a comma there, okay? Make sure you've got that. Now, what's the highest score for task achievement if you don't maintain an appropriate tone? Any thoughts? If you were like kind of casual or something, when you're supposed to be formal, what is the, okay? 5, okay, a few of you saying 5, some of you saying 4. The answer is 5. The tone may be variable and sometimes inappropriate, okay? So variable might be sometimes you use it, sometimes you don't. So even that might cap you at a 5, and sometimes inappropriate. So inappropriate, meaning it's just not suitable for this. So what we advise you, analyze the task to look for more than one element in any bullet point. Check plural forms in the bullet point. So if they ask you to describe the problems with the S, you have to give more than one, right? So that's a tricky one, I think. Yeah. Okay. Then state the purpose of your letter in the first paragraph, which is standard. Letters need paragraphs. Okay, even though it's only 150 words, it's important that you have written paragraphs. You should not use any short form or point form or bullet points when you're writing either task 1 or task 2. Everything has to be in full paragraphs and nice sentences. Okay. Politely round off or look to the future, like I appreciate your assistance. I look forward to meeting you soon, something like that, right? So it just sounds more polite. Write in a style that is suitable for either formal or informal. Formal for your writing to your employers, to your boss, to your colleagues, those are all formal, or to somebody outside. But if you informal, to people like your friends, if you're writing to a friend. Avoid using the words given in the instructions. So in the prompt, it says, this is graph shows blah, blah, blah. You cannot copy what is in the question, okay? I know that sometimes we use that as a technique to get a word count in for some English tests, but we cannot do that in IELTS. They will deduct the copied words from your overall word count, and that could penalize you because maybe you don't have sufficient word count then, okay? Start the letter as shown, dear sir or madam, which is, don't include your address at the start of the letter. End the letter in the appropriate way, yours faithfully, yours sincerely. Those are the only 2 ways to do it, okay? All right, so let me see. Okay, let's move on to another example, okay? So in this example, it says, you think you left your briefcase on the train yesterday morning. So the topic is losing something. So in this case, losing a briefcase on the train. Write a letter to the lost property office. So this doesn't say who in particular, but it says write a letter to the property office. So it's fairly formal because you don't really know who it is. In the letter, describe what the briefcase looked like and what was in it. Explain where you think you left it. Say what you want the property office to do. So what should you do? Identify the purpose and recipient of the letter, adjust the tone accordingly, cover all the bullets, and then follow proper letter writing convention. So it is a letter, so you should be careful of that. Now, just a quick focus on identifying the purpose. So these are various scenarios. So I want you to quickly look at these and be ready to tell me what kind of purpose is each letter. So a letter for number 1, what would that be? Just type it in the chat. Type your answer in the chat. For number 1, you saw some furniture you liked at an exhibition, you would like a catalog. What type of letter is that? Yes, letter of inquiry. Okay, it's a letter of request. So if you're requesting something from people and you don't know them and they're a business, use polite language, right? You want them to deliver the whatever it is you're asking them for. So be nice, right? So be polite. Okay. Yes, letter of request. It's a letter of request. Number 2, you want your friend to come to your partner's surprise birthday party. Is this formal or informal, this letter? Okay, it says here, right, you want your friend to come to you. So you're writing to whom? To your friend. So therefore it's informal, okay? It's a letter of invitation. Come to the birthday party, right? Okay, good, good. I think you get the idea. Number 3, you recently stayed at a hotel. The service was unsatisfactory. What is that? A letter of, number 3, it is a letter of complaint. Thank you. Okay, letter of complaint, feedback. Okay, it is formal. Okay, if you want people to pay attention to your feedback, you should write politely and then, you know, as politely as you can, right? Writing a letter as a rant about something is not generally not good practice. Okay, so, and also if you write a complaint letter, usually you include some sort of solution or ways that they could, you know, fix the problem, right? Number 4, you're interested in a job as a part-time sales assistant at a bookshop. Is this formal or informal? Thank you, David. Yeah. Jacinta. Yeah. Basically, it's a job application. Anything related to job search should be formal. Okay. Even if you're writing to someone you vaguely know, but you're asking them for a job, it's best to keep it formal. And this is a letter of, what do you call it? Application. You know, it's like you're saying, you know, I want to apply for this job. Okay. Number 5, you want your friend to look after your house while you go on holiday. Formal or informal? Informal, and it's asking for help or for assistance, right? Request for assistance, but informally. Okay. Good. All right. So let's move on here. Now, how would you improve the tone of each of these? So for example, if you want to send your catalog, you must send your catalog to the above address immediately. What's wrong with this tone? Yes, we'll be discussing academics, so stick around. It's too demanding and it's kind of rude, right? You must send the catalog, and people are like, who are you, right? Why should we send this to you? So using imperatives is not usually acceptable unless you are, you know, teaching someone, telling them off, or, you know, so we generally don't order people around, right? Because it's just rude. So you should write something like, please send me your catalog as I'm very interested in, you know, seeing what your company has to offer. Something, just keep it polite, right? Dear Anne, I request the pleasure of your attendance at the birthday party that I will host for my longtime partner. Please note that it's a surprise party. I will very much appreciate it if you keep this information a secret. What's wrong with this letter? Is this the correct tone for a letter to your friend? It's too formal, absolutely, right? Your friend will think you're kind of weird, like if you write to them like that, right? So in this type of situation, you can be less formal, but just a reminder that whatever you write in your letter should not be used like, you know, rude slang or SMS language, right? Like don't use abbreviations, okay? All right, number 3, I'm very sorry to have to inform you, but I want to complain about the service I received at your hotel. What's wrong with that? It's a letter of complaint, right? So what's wrong with this sentence? What's wrong with this sentence? It's not the politeness. Actually, If you're complaining, why would you feel sorry? Why would you say, I'm very sorry to have to inform you, right? You only say that if you are apologizing for something. So in this case, you're not the one that's apologizing, you're demanding an apology. So you, although you still have to be polite, but you would not say, I'm sorry to have to inform you, right? Because you're not sorry, because you're complaining. Dear Mr. Roches, I was excited when I saw your ad for part-time sales assistant, and I would be really happy to work in your bookshop. What's wrong with this one? It's a job application letter, right? Yeah, it's too informal. Why would you tell them you're excited and you're happy to work? And it just sounds a little too emotional to be an objective and business type letter, right? So you could use words like I saw your ad for part-time sales assistant and I am keen to apply to work in your store, something like that, right? But more formal. So anything related, as I said, to job application must be formal. Then the last one, I wrote to ask if you could grant my request of watching over my house while I'm away. What's wrong with that? That's quite obvious. The last one, 5, it's too formal for asking your friend for something, right? If you're asking your friend for help, you don't need to say, could you grant my request? Grant my request is maybe something you ask your boss because you need approval from your boss to go on leave or something. But in this case, if you're asking for your friend's help, it's not, you don't need to put it so formally, right? Okay, where was it? Sorry, wait. So going back to, this scenario about leaving your briefcase and writing a letter to the lost property office, describe, explains, and tell them what. So here is a sample of a response or a letter. And I want you to tell me if everything is complete here. So have a quick look. Any information missing? Yep, dear sir or madam, and the end of it is yours faithfully, and then the name of someone, right? Anything else? Or is there any information in there that's sort of missing? So there's a description of the item. Is there a description of where you left it? Yeah. What was in it, the contents? Okay, it probably has most of the information, but there's some stuff missing, right? Look at the last sentence. It is my hope that the briefcase be returned to its rightful owner. What's wrong with that response or that letter, that part of the letter? So what's the problem? If you tell someone that you want it returned to the rightful owner, what should you add there? What information does it need? Yes, thank you, David. No contact details, right? So if you want it back, you better give them your address or tell them who to send it to or where to send it to, right? So details are missing, right? So make sure that you include. What about this one? This one has irrelevant information. This letter is responding to the job. The person who wants to apply for a part-time sales assistant at a bookstore, right? So what's irrelevant information here? I would like to apply for the position of part-time sales assistant advertised in Saturday's Daily Planet, right next to the article on talking to your plants. I'm currently studying literature at University of Tasmania. I chose to study literature because I love books. My favorite book is Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien, and I would certainly recommend this to any of your customers. I'm available to work from Monday to Thursday nights. I can't work later than 9 because my mother says the town center is quite dangerous late at night. I can't work on Fridays because I have violin lessons. I'm well qualified for the job because I'm friendly and I love books. Enclosed my resume for you to further evaluate my qualifications. If you'd like me to attend an interview, you can contact me at the above address. I hope to hear from you soon. What's wrong with this? What is the irrelevant information? Any suggestions? What's irrelevant? Irrelevant meaning it's not important. Yeah, the part about right next to the article on talking to your plants. Now, it's important in a job application to state where you found the job ad, but you do not have to say where in the on the web page or whatever, right? Or the newspaper. It's right next to the article on talking to your plants. That's not necessary, right? Also, in the second paragraph, I love books. My favorite book is, okay, in a job application, you don't need to say that. You might say that in an interview if they ask you how much you like books, why do you want to work here, you know, that kind of thing. Then you can say, okay, I have a favorite author and so on, but this is not a place to mention a book that you like, right? Also, what about this part? I'm available to work, but the part about, oh, my mom says, you know, it's kind of, if you give people, you know, when you can work, you don't actually have to explain why, right? Because it's probably irrelevant to them, right? That you have something else on, or your mom says that it's too late at night or something like that, right? Just say when you can work, when you're available, that's it, right? I'm well qualified for a job because I'm friendly and I love books. It's too informal because I'm okay. So do not use what do you call it? Contractions like I'm, don't, things like that. These are all informal. So, you know, friendliness may not be a qualification for the job, right? But definitely your love of books or not, you know, but something more about your knowledge of books or something might be more valuable. All right. So anyway, that's all right. This one is an informal letter. Okay. You're going on holiday, asking a friend to look after your house. Write a letter to your friend. So, you know, when it says write a letter to your friend, it's a less formal letter. But as I said, you should not be using super casual language, right? So explain the situation, tell your friend what needs to be done, arrange to meet your friend. Okay, so I would really appreciate it if, okay, so here are the sentences. So see if you can put them in the correct order. Okay, all the information is here. So what order do you think they should be in terms of responding? Okay, so have a look. I would really appreciate it if you could look after the house. Would it be possible for us to meet on Wednesday so I can give you the keys? I wonder if you could do me a favor while I'm away. So which one should go first? Which of these sentences? Okay, remember the rule of telling the person why you're writing, is it right? So you could start with 5. As you know, I'm going to England on holiday next Monday until the 15th of July to give some context. Then the next sentence should be, I wonder if you could do me a favor while I'm away, right? So that's number 3. Then after that, if you could do me a favor while I'm away. I would really appreciate it if you could look after the house. While you're at the house, in particular, I would like you to feed the cat. He can get in and out of the house on his own, so all you need to do is leave some food in his bowl. While you're at the house, it would be good if you could water the garden and take any post out of the mailbox and place it inside. Would it be possible for us to meet on Wednesday so I could give you the keys? Excuse me. If Wednesday is okay, please telephone me as soon as possible. Okay. So this is kind of funny because I had a friend who this summer that asked me to take care of her house and stuff. So this is kind of relevant for me. But you know, most of you may have had your friends ask you to do something like that, right? And yes, I did water the plants, although I don't know how well I watered the plants, but she didn't have a pet. So the answer should look something like this. Okay. So the pet is important. So obviously that would be the first thing. In particular, I'd like you to feed the cat. And then as a side, you said, while you're there, please water the garden and take out any post, right? Okay. Now notice that the paragraphing, right? Like, so each paragraph has a clear purpose. So the first paragraph is what you want the person, like why you're writing this, and the context, like I'm going away and that's why I need you to help me. Then the body paragraph, the second paragraph are the details of what you need, what request you have of that person. And then the third paragraph is sort of like a conclusion where it says, you know, what you need them to do or some arrangement, right? Okay, so all you need are 3 paragraphs. If you have 3 paragraphs, you can estimate each paragraph to be about 50 words. Sorry, write more than that. So maybe 50, 70, 50, something like that. So you're well over the 150 word count. Okay, if you write too close to like just on 150, if there's anything that is copied and they want to reduce the number of words that you have or something, then you would get a lower score, right? Paraphrase any words or phrases that have been overused. So we're going to look at another letter that just is about some work accident. And if you read it and look at it straight away, you know what the problem is, right? Redundancy and repetition. So this person says, Dear Mr. Williams, I would like to report an accident. I had leaving work on Friday on 21st October. As I was leaving work, I tripped over a raised paving stone outside the front entrance. I fell over and tore my trousers and cut my knee. Although my cut knee was not serious, it was painful. My trousers were damaged beyond repair. So here you see many things repeated, right? Cut my knee, my cut knee. So they're almost the same. My trousers, my trousers. So it's a bit annoying, right? Problems with the word paving stones is used a couple of times. This may be because tree roots are going under the paving stones. So here's paving stones once, paving stones again, paving stones 3 times, paving stones 4 times. Okay, that is not good because that shows lack of variation in your vocabulary. Basically, you need to, keep have a reference of synonyms, right? So are there other ways of saying paving stones, and then use different ways of saying the same thing? Okay. Accident. right? So a bit too repetitive. So, you know, a couple ways around this. One is to use synonyms. The other way is to just use pronouns and stuff, right? Them or those. I would like the company to pay to replace my trousers, replacing my trousers. So again, you said it here. So you could almost do sentence combining too. I would like the company to pay the $200 it would cost me to replace the trousers. And that would take care of having so many phrases say my trousers. I trust the company understands will not deny its responsibility towards its employees. Okay. Okay, so here's a sample answer. You can replace words. Use the word incident instead of accident, right? Although there's slight differences. I would like the company to pay for the damage to my clothing, right? That's a different way of saying torn trousers. Okay. All right, let's look now at avoiding things like misspellings and inaccurate word choice. Okay. This is quite important, like avoiding misspellings and inaccurate word choice. You just have to be good at spelling and make sure that you, especially the simpler words, right? Use the correct word for the, you know, what you're saying. Correct tense of the verb. Construct grammatically correct sentences, okay? So tenses are a big thing, and subject verb agreement, okay? Do you notice anything here? Any errors? I've always considered you my best friend. I live close to the office. Okay, that's obviously wrong there. The Tavern Inn offers first-class accommodation. I'm in between jobs. I've never worked before. We used to spend Friday afternoons with the gang. The office will be closed during the holiday season. A separate investigation was launched by the maintenance staff. I've always considered you my best friend. Best friend is 2 words, right? I live close to the office, so no D there, right? The Tavern Inn offers first-class accommodation. Okay, was that spelled correctly? I'm in between jobs. I have never worked before. It's kind of a contradiction, right? If you're in between jobs, but you haven't worked before. We used to spend Friday afternoons with the gang. Used to, past, there must be a D there. The office will be closed, so D here. Separate investigation, there's an A here, not an E, right? So it's wrong spelling. Maintenance is also spelled incorrectly, okay? All right, here's another example. I'll quickly go through this. This is about handing in assignment, asking a lecturer for an extension. Describe the situation, explain why your assignment's late, say when you'll be able to hand it in. So here's an example. Okay. So you keep it formal because you're writing to a lecturer. And then again, this one has 3 paragraphs. You may have 4 paragraphs if you wish. That's so amount of paragraphing is not a problem. The amount of words, the number of words you use is. All right, let's move on to writing the academic task 1. Okay, so those of you who've been waiting, here we go, academic task 1. Okay, here's a quick poll for you. Which 3 things must you think about writing task 1? This is for what we just learned, the general training. For general training task 1, what are the 3 things you need to consider? Can we see some responses for that? Anyone? Can you all see the poll? Yeah. True, false. it's fine if the letter doesn't sound, as long as I use lots of impressive vocabulary. If a letter doesn't sound realistic, okay, you need to just make sure you answer to the question, you know, to the prompt. It must be relevant. And then if you use impressive vocabulary, make sure the vocabulary is relevant to the topic, right? And also using flowery language doesn't mean that it's easier for people to understand you. Okay, so just be careful when you do that. Do not over embellish, right? Although it helps if you use some idioms, that's fine, okay? In an informal letter, it's okay to, if I use contractions. Yes, you can use contractions only in an informal piece of writing. In a more formal letter, you should use really formal phrases. Yes, absolutely. Okay. And the purpose, though, is not to impress the examiner, but to fulfill the requirements of it being formal, right? Yes, purpose, tone, and covering all 3 bullet points is super important. Good. I'm glad you all got that. Okay. Do not, okay. Informal letter, you should not use words like LOL or R, was that rolling on the floor, laugh at ROFL and that kind of thing, right? Do not use SMS language. Okay, thanks for your responses. Good. I think you all get the idea. So let's move on to academic writing. Okay. All right. What do you do in academic writing task 1? You are supposed to put the visuals into words. You have to summarize in your own words information presented in a graph, table, chart, or diagram. Write at least 150 words in about 20 minutes. So you have the same amount of time to do this as the people in general training, but the task is a little more focused. Okay, so let's have a look. What does that mean? So in task 1 for academic, you will be given some sort of graphic information. Usually it's numerical information in a graph or chart, okay? So this is what it would look like. And most of the time they will give you 2 graphs or 2 charts or 1 graph, 1 chart, whatever, and you have to compare and contrast the information in it. Now, both of them may be on the same topic, but have a different angle or give you different kinds of statistics, right? So in this case, you see here that it has something to do with Japanese tourists traveling overseas. And then at some point, there's another graph, a line graph that talks about how many of them are going to Australia, but it's titled Australia's share of the Japanese tourist market. So the key here is not for you to say why Japanese tourists like to go to Australia, okay? That's not important. In task 1 for academic, your task is not to explain why something looks the way it does. You just have to show what the most important parts of that information is. So in this case, straight away, when you look at both, you can say that there has been an increase, and especially for Japanese tourists traveling abroad, within a period of 10 years, there's been a triple, the number of Japanese tourists traveling abroad has tripled, right? If you look at the first, initially it was what, about 5, and then it rose to about 15 million. So from 5 million to 15 million in 10 years, that's quite an increase, right? But the number of tourists actually going to Australia was 2% in 1985, and it went up to as high as 6% in 1995. So it also tripled, right? The number going to Australia. So you have to talk about how both of them increased and tripled, the numbers tripled over the period of number of years. Now, graphs and charts show you duration of time, right? It will show you, you know, from last time and then now, that kind of thing. So you have to follow the trends of the dates as well, okay? The other thing you need to do, it says summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features. Okay, so main features means the parts that are salient or the parts that stand out. So you're not going to have time in 150 words to write every piece of data. Like in 1985, the number of Japanese tourists traveling abroad was 5 million. In 1986, it was slightly above 5 million. In 1987, it was at 7 million. And then, you know, you can't just list them. Okay, that doesn't show any analysis. The purpose of this task is to show that you can function in an academic context and be able to write about information that you see, because that's what you're going to do in university. So key features means what, where there's a change, right? So in this case, the overall trend is that they've increased and tripled, but in between there are certain areas where like you see a sudden or an increase, like so this is what 11 million for Japanese tourists, you know, so it's an increase from 1985 to 1990. And then there was a slight dip or drop, as we say. So use the word slight or small. So you have to describe the changes, right? How much are the changes? So then there was another increase after that. So it's almost like there was one trend from 1985 to 1990. There was a steady increase. There was a slight drop in 91. And then from 92 onwards, there was an increase. There was a increase, something like that. Same thing for this one. There was a steady increase to 89. And then a slight drop in 90. And then a gradual increase again to 1994. And then it dropped again in 1995, right? So look for the key trends, patterns, and group them so that you don't have to list every part, okay? Also, you must always have the number, like you have to say 1985, the number of people traveling abroad was 5 million. Then you have to write 5 and then, you know, million, right? So you have to state the unit of the number, because otherwise people won't know what you're talking about. So first, write the introduction, what, when, where, right? So this is standard in any piece of writing. You must have an intro. Highlight key features with figures. So make sure that where the key changes are, or the points of changes, you have given the important numbers, okay? And then you have to write an overview. So what's the overview for this one? The overview is that both of them have increased or tripled, the numbers have tripled over the period of 10 years, right? So the overview includes both graphs, not just one of them. Okay. Here's an example of the introduction. So your introduction can be short, that's fine. Spend more time on the body part, right? So the chart and graph compare number. Okay, so this part, you must be careful, whether it's your overview or the introduction, do not copy from the question prompt, right? As I said before, they will subtract it from your overall word count if you copy word for word and if you copy the whole sentence structure and everything. So you have to rephrase it. The chart and graph compare number of Japanese who spent their holidays overseas from 1985 to 1995 with the proportion of them who visited Australia. Now, highlight key features. So what they've done here is to have one paragraph that describes the first bar, the bar graph, and then the second body paragraph describes the line graph. Okay, so you can do it this way as well. But make sure whatever you say about, you need to compare both. So don't just say, oh, this chart is like this, that chart's like that, and then just leave it. You have to tie them together. Like, what do they have in common? What do they have that's similar? What do they have that's different? So in 1985, only about 5 million Japanese traveled abroad, after which the number increased steadily. By 1990, the figure had more than doubled to 11 million. Apart from a slight drop the following year, the upward trend continued until the end of the period when numbers reached over 15 million. Okay, so you see that it selected about 3 points. The decrease is the increase, points of increase, points of decrease. The second one about Japanese going to Australia. While Australia was the destination for under 2% of Japanese tourists in 1985, this percentage had risen to over 6% by 1994. The proportion grew consistently apart from a slight fall. So you have to describe the changes, like consistently means the same. Slight fall means less. And then percentage decline marginally means just very little decline, right? And use words like decline. Don't just say go down or go up. You see the difference. If you said go down and go up, that's like a band 5 vocabulary, right? So use sort of more specific and more academic vocabulary. Now, what is the highest score for task achievement you can get if you don't include figures to highlight the key features? Anyone venture to guess? Band 5. So if you mentioned in that chart, you only mentioned the increase at the beginning and you don't mention the other changes, then you'll get band 5. If you stated the changes, but you didn't say by how much, like how many millions, right? Then you will also get lower, band 5 or lower, okay? Band 5 is the highest you can get for task achievement, okay? Now, writing an overview, this is the conclusion. Overall, so when you start your conclusion, use words that are concluding words like overall or in conclusion or to conclude. This is the case. Overall, despite the relatively small proportion of Japanese tourists coming to Australia, the increase in country's share of the Japanese tourist market corresponded closely with the growth in Japanese tourism overseas generally, with a trebling of both in the 10-year period. So you see words like overall, and then there's a comparison between the proportion of tourists going to Australia and the increase in the country's share of the tourist market corresponded closely. So both increase. So you can say that they correspond closely, but you do not have to explain how that correspond, how this worked, why they were parallel, right? Okay. What is the highest score for task achievement if you don't include an overview? Okay, this overview is pretty serious. You only get a band 5, recounts detail mechanically with no overview. Okay, so the overview is important. If you don't want to miss the overview, you make sure you put it in the introduction. So you can write away in the introduction that these two graphs show correspondence between the increase in this and the other one. Put it in the introduction so that if you do run out of time in the conclusion, at least you can conclude with one sentence and not have to put the overview in there, okay? So here's a sample of how you could organize the answer. So your intro, which you could write about 26 words, just recapping what it's about. And then your body paragraph here, which says in 1985, only about 5 million traveled abroad. That's about 50 words. The other descriptions about 49 words. And then your conclusion is about 42 words, okay? So if you roughly chunk your paragraphs like that, you can kind of estimate, how much you have to write, okay? Of course, when you write it, don't put, type like headings like body to conclusion and all that, right? Just write your paragraphs. Okay. All right. So now that we've talked about writing task 1 for academic, let's now move on to task 2 for both academic and general training. Okay, because they're both quite similar. Okay. Okay, somebody needs to look at the previous slide again. This is this is just estimating how you could put it together, but you can work out yourself, you know, how you want to do. The intro and the conclusion can be shorter than the body paragraphs, obviously. Okay, but you need to practice this regularly, okay, in order to get a sense for how much you can write. The two charts are always relevant. If they show you two things, they should be relevant to each other. Otherwise, they won't put it together. Okay, so you should be able to find the connection. Yeah. All right, so I need to move on to task 2 because there's quite a bit to say here. So as I said, the general training academic have similar kinds of questions. So let's just discuss it together. The statement of the topic is given to you, you know, at the beginning. So it's a little bit like the general training, writing a letter thing. They'll start with something generic or general, and then they'll give you specific instruction or questions about what you need to do, right? So just be aware of that. That should help you understand the. So for example, they give you a statement. And the statement might be like a generalization or something. In many countries, very few young people read newspapers or follow the news on TV. Okay, that's just a statement. And then you'll say, well, so what? Then the next thing they'll say, so that's the statement of the topic. The next part of the prompt says, we'll ask you the question. What do you think are the causes of this? What solutions can you suggest? Yeah. All right, the structure is almost always like that. Some people think that there are things that individuals can do to help prevent global climate change. Others believe that action by individuals is useless and irrelevant, and that it is only government businesses which can make a difference. So here, they're presenting the topic to you in the form of two contrasting opinions. All right. Then your task is to discuss both views and give your opinion. Now, the number of paragraphs you have, again, would be determined by this. Discuss both views. So you can have one paragraph discussing this first view, another paragraph discussing the second view, and then a third paragraph giving your opinion. And then you sandwich this with the introduction and the conclusion. Okay. So there's the instruction, there's the statement of the topic, right? Now, what do we suggest, especially for task achievement or task response for task 2? Read it carefully, take time to understand the topic as well as your task. Now, if you are careless and you just skim and then you just read the topic and go, oh, I know what this topic's about, right? You will miss the point. So you have to read not just the topic, like the overall topic, but what they actually want you to do with the topic, okay? So here's another sample prompt. In many countries, very few young people read newspapers or follow the news on TV. What do you think are the causes of this? What solutions can you suggest? So there's a generalization here or some topic. And this one has two questions. What are the causes of this problem? What solutions can you suggest? So first of all, you have to identify what the problem is, that few young people read newspapers or follow the news. Why? Because, and then give your reasons and then solutions, right? So there's cause and effect and problem and solution here. All right, here's a sample of a response that you don't want to write. It is not true that people don't read newspapers or watch the news on TV. In my country, most people spend time finding out about the news. Why do I say so? Because I see newspapers everywhere. If people don't buy newspapers, why does its publication continue? Okay. First of all, this response is kind of informal. Why do I say so? Because, right, it's as though the person is speaking. But remember that you are writing, you're not speaking. So you have to use writing style, not speaking style. It says here, if people don't buy newspapers, why does it publication continue? Is that relevant to the topic, to the actual question? No, because they didn't ask about why, you know, whether it should be published, continue to be published or not, right? Here's another example. Here's an introduction. Very few young people today browse newspapers or watch the news on TV. What are the reasons for this? What solutions can I suggest? This essay will identify the causes and present solutions. This is an announcement. This is not a good start to the essay, right? Do not have questions in your introduction, right? Like just say what the reasons are and what the solutions are, and then explain it. Do not say that, like ask the reader to guess what it is, right? Of course, they're not going to be able to guess. Also, do not tell your reader that I'm going to tell you the causes and solutions, right? Just say what the causes and solutions are. Don't tell them I'm going to tell you this, right? We call that an announcement or even a pronouncement, okay? Now this one here is about general or specific. So people don't read enough nowadays. Reading as pastime has been replaced by watching fantasy, reality TV shows, on surfing the internet, taking selfies and posting them online. If these options are taken away, people will go back to reading. So if this one is problem, solution, reasons, so maybe this is a little too general. Okay. Now, here's another example, analyzing essay questions. Read the following 2 sample essay questions. Decide what you're being asked to do. So, personal preference and opinion. Some people prefer to live in a house, while others feel it's better to live in an apartment. Discuss both views and give your opinion. Okay, so this is more straightforward, right? Because it just tell one view, tell the other view, tell what your opinion is, and then tie it together. Now it says, give reasons for your answer. So whatever you say your opinion is, you must give evidence, okay? Include relevant examples from your own knowledge and experience. So you don't have to memorize facts or anything, but it would help you if you gave, or not help you, but you must explain like, oh, so in my opinion, this is, you know, what I think should happen, because from my own experience, this is what often occurs. Or you can say from your, you know, regular observations or something like that. Okay. Now here's another one. This one is a little more complex because it's asking you to give advantages and disadvantages, which is kind of like comparison and contrast as well. Some people prefer to live in a house, while others feel it's better to live in an apartment. Are there more advantages than disadvantages of living in a house compared to living in an apartment? Okay, so they asking, so it's the same topic, but kind of asked in a different way. Here's another example, problem, cause and effect. Modern cities have had to deal with an ever-increasing amount of noise. Why is there a constant increase in the amount of noise in cities? Why is it a problem? Okay, so reasons, this one is reasons why, or cause, okay? Cause and then the problem. Here's the same topic, but the question is, what problems does this cause the individual and society? How can these problems be addressed? So notice here it says problems for individuals and society. So that's like 2 different things, right? problems for the individual, problems for society, and then your solutions. So you could have one paragraph for individual, one paragraph for society, one paragraph for the solutions. Okay. Okay. Now, something to keep in mind for, especially for this task 2, is coherence and cohesion. Okay, remember that's the second category of grading. Plan your writing, divide your ideas into paragraphs. So I've been telling you all the time, you know, for task 1 and task 3, you must have introduction and conclusion. Obviously, the intro and conclusion for task 2 is a little bit longer than the task 1, but the body in the middle would depend on what the instructions are to you, right? Here's another one. Every year, thousands of students go overseas to study. Although many benefit from the experience, others go home disappointed. What are the benefits and drawbacks of studying in another country? So basically, it's a pros and cons, right? So what are the benefits of studying one? You can have one paragraph telling that, another paragraph talking about the cons or the drawbacks of studying in another country. And then you can summarize with what you think about that. Okay, so you can say that, well, you know, you believe that despite all the disadvantages, people should still take the opportunity to go overseas, etc. Okay. This is the basic structure: introduction, body, conclusion. So the body is really to explain and give evidence for your thoughts. Okay. Your paragraph should follow general to specific format. So state the main idea first and then give some whatever examples you're giving. Okay. So for example, if you said men and women have totally different attitudes to shopping. So that's your opinion, right? Why? You know, I have observed that many women enjoy browsing through the shops. Men, on the other hand, often know exactly what they're going to buy and are only interested in getting in and out of shops as quickly as possible. So you see here that the words in black, or the sentences in black, are an extension or kind of an explanation for why men and women have different attitudes to shopping. Okay, just observation. Now, here's an example of trying to construct a proper paragraph. So if you look at these, again, this is the topic is about earning money, you know, running your own business, earning money or something, or success. Which sentences should come first, or which sentence should come first? Like, what order would you put this in? So have a quick read. See if you can identify which is the first sentence. So remember the principle of general to specific, right? So what is the, you know, overarching sort of statement? So if you know the topic is about, you know, being successful or something, so what's the first one? The first sentence should be. So read all of them first before you decide. Okay, when you see words, okay, so the trick is to look at the linking words. First, of course, finally, however, makes you think that, okay, and another. So there's kind of a, what do you call it, listing here, right? So those words indicate that those sentences follow something else. They're not on its own. So your first sentence has to be something that can stand alone pretty much, right? So it shouldn't be like if you just said first, you can get, it doesn't make any sense, right? Okay, so people are suggesting 2 or 3. The correct answer is 3, although there are a number of ways to get rich. Okay, so obviously this is the overarching sentence because the other sentences are listing ways to get rich. There are a number of ways to get rich. The chances of being successful are small. Okay. So you could start off with, first, you could get a job as lawyer or politician, which pays you a lot of money. Then you could say, another possibly would be starting up your own business. And then you could say, of course, becoming rich is a lot easier if you have a special talent, such as being able to play sport well, sing, or act. Finally, however, this is risky. This one should be following the one about starting your own business, right? So it should be 1 and then 6 and then 4 and then 5. 5 would be last, obviously, because it says finally, right? So it should look like this. Again, these linking words help your reader to understand your flow of thought. Okay. First, of course, another, however, finally. Okay. So you must use words like this in your essay or in your task 1 and 2. Okay. What are this group of sentences? This one is about, so this is about the introduction. This is about using sport to promote nationalism. So how would you order this? Okay, again, use the clues, use the linking words. So for this reason, in the past, so the answer should be, anyone venture to guess? In the past, countries promote nationalism through their armies. Now, nationalism is generated by sporting achievement. So this one, the logic is they talk about nationalism in war, right? Then they said that nowadays it's changed. Now nationalism is more based on sporting achievement. For this reason, so this being this change and becoming sporting achievement, countries such as Australia are prepared to spend large amounts of money to train athletes to be successful in sporting competitions. There are a number of advantages and disadvantages to this. Okay, so this is an introductory sentence telling people that you're going to give the advantages and disadvantages. Now notice it says there are a number of advantages, disadvantages. You didn't write that. I will tell you the advantages and disadvantages, right? Use appropriate vocabulary and be aware of collocations. So make sure you use sophisticated vocabulary, right? Use phrasal verbs, use phrases instead of single words, like make an offer, accept an offer, dismiss the offer, reject an offer, or heavy traffic, moderate traffic, slow moving traffic. So for some nouns, you can give adjectives. So that gives you, so instead of just saying the traffic, if you say the heavy traffic, people have a better idea that, okay, it's a lot of traffic. If you say moderate traffic, people have an idea that, okay, it's not so bad. Slow moving traffic sounds very bad, right? Like traffic jam. Eyes, close your eyes, close the door, close the deal. So use phrasal verbs. Phrases like break, okay, what you can break a window, break a leg, break a vow, or break a promise. But break a leg can also be an idiom, right? Which means good luck to people who are going on stage. Okay. Again, spelling and word formation is important. Cope up with, I've seen that a lot. There's no such phrase. Okay. It's cope with, not cope up with. Bongacious, there's no such word. It's completely made up. Although words like humongous used to be completely made up, but it has now made its way into the dictionary. Result in, not result to. Supposed to be, there should be a D there. Taken care of, there's no D in that one. Okay, so use complex structures wherever you can because it shows a more sophisticated control of the language, right? So combine your sentences instead of having several short sentence statements, right? Combine them to make them more complex. Global warming is a phenomenon. It is caused by increased carbon emissions. So you could make that a more complex sentence. Global warming is a phenomenon which is caused by increased carbon emissions. So use which or and so on, right? This one, okay. You've got 3 different ideas, but your repetition, the World Climate Change Summit was, the World Climate Change Summit was, it's very repetitive, okay? And then you've got phrase Kyoto Agreement, Kyoto Agreement. So why don't you just combine all that? The World Climate Change Summit held in Copenhagen in 2009 was designed to reach, there should be some commas there too, designed to reach an agreement to replace the Kyoto Agreement, which expires in 2012. So you see how much information you can squeeze into just one sentence, okay? Rather than repeating similar sentences over and over again. Avoid errors in grammar. Okay, I know it's kind of hard to do if you don't have a grammar check or something, okay? One of the factors that couples consider, number 2, although students know they may experience homesickness culture, even, okay, this is not a complete sentence, right? Number 2, whenever you use although, it is called a subordinator, subordinating conjunction. So it's a linking word, but it's a linking word to make this particular part or piece of information subordinate to the main, another main idea. So you can say, although students know they may experience homesickness, culture shock, even racial discrimination, comma, they still choose to go overseas to study. So you see how it's sort of additional information to going overseas to study. Number 3, young people who start to live on their own often celebrate their so-called freedom by staying up late and attending to parties. Now, it's not attending to parties, it's just attending parties, and attending is spelled incorrectly, okay? So we've seen this question before about the advantage and disadvantage of studying abroad. So here's a way to write this. Studying overseas is a popular choice for students, as evidenced by the large following of foreign student enrollees in universities abroad. Despite issues of culture shock and homesickness, it is a good long-term investment that propels their career and personal development. Okay, so you see the good vocabulary, large volume of foreign student enrollees in university abroad. You've got good vocabulary there, okay? Okay, so just some reminders here. For paper-based, you can mark the task sheet, ask for an extra sheet only when you've used up the one provided, although most of you probably are doing computer-based now. Okay, just a few things you should not do. Remember, do not write a complete draft, right? Some people think, oh, okay, I'll just write out first and then rewrite it. Okay, there's no time for you to do that. You can write an outline, but the outline should take only, what, 5 minutes if you were for task 2, 5 minutes, maximum 10 minutes to draft it. But don't get carried away with the outline so much so as you don't leave yourself enough time to write the whole thing out. Do not copy the prompt. Remember I said do not copy the sentence, do not copy the words, just paraphrase. Do not overgeneralize or focus too much on details. It's a nice balance of both, right? Do not rely on narration or anecdote. So don't say, oh, for example, that one time my mother brought me to the mall and then go on and on, right? Because when you get involved in narration, you can forget the time limit and stuff and then end up sort of being off topic as well as having too many words. So make sure you don't do that, okay? For paper, okay, I think I said that before. Okay. Make sure you understand the prompt. Read it carefully. Remember, read the topic, then read the actual instructions. The instructions might have several parts to it, so make sure you answer all the parts. Cover all that's required. Follow writing conventions, meaning make sure you have punctuation, you have proper, capitals where it's needed, etc. Write on the prescribed task sheet if it's on paper. All right. So here are some resources for you on IELTS Essentials here, which you have access to free, and there are many other online resources for you. Here's another, oh, sorry, I'm just wrong screen. Remember to allot your time properly. So you're given the full 60 minutes for task 1 and 2. So you have to decide, you have to decide how much you give to task 1 and how much you give to task 2. So you have to manage your own time. I believe that they'll have a clock or something, and sometimes the invigilator even tells you the time. Decide on your position, express your view clearly, and provide support. So whatever opinion you give, you must have examples and evidence. The more specific you can be, the better. But remember, don't tell a story, don't go into too much narrative, just in a briefly describe something, but in as concrete a way as possible. Okay, I think being concrete and specific helps to show that you're a higher level candidate, right? Organize your ideas into paragraphs, each with a clear focus. Use a range of vocabulary and grammatical structures. Analyze the test and write relevant content. The key word is relevant. Okay, if you write fancy words and long sentences, but you're off topic, then your score across all the 4 components will be low, right? Use a variety of linking words to connect and sequence your ideas. Do not write in note form or use headings, bullet points, or number lists. This is important. Okay, some people think, oh, I can say, okay, there are 3 reasons for this, and then they go number 1 dot, number 2, number 3. No listing, no bullet points. The IELTS examiners want to see you that you're able to write complete sentences and put organized paragraphs nicely, and be fluent in your language. They don't want to see choppy language or note point form type things, right? Because bullet points and so on, they break up the flow of your thoughts. Check your work carefully, know your usual mistakes and look out for them. Okay, so if you know you have problems with subject-verb agreement, just have a quick check of that. Now, it's up to you to decide whether you prefer computer-delivered or paper-based IELTS test. Some people are more comfortable with typing on a computer at length, and other people prefer to handwrite for the writing component. So you choose, according to your preference. But just note that one of the big differences is that computer-delivered IELTS tests can give the score within 3 to 5 days. Paper-based tests, however, require at least 13 days to process. So, it depends on whether you're in a hurry to get your results or not. Okay. But other than that, it's really dependent on which you prefer. Okay. So, yeah, and IDP has paper-based and computer-delivered tests, right? So make sure you sign up for the one you prefer. Okay. This IELTSprogresscheck.com is an official sort of practice test that you can do. You have to pay, I believe, $50 US or something like that. But it is supposed to simulate the actual IELTS test, and they will actually give you band scores and so on. Okay, so if you think you're ready and you want to try and have a sense for, what level you're at, you can pay for this. All right, we come to the end of me giving you advice and all that. Now we've come to the point for a chance for you to ask questions. Whatever you're interested in, you can ask away. Just remember, when it's your turn to speak, just make sure you unmute yourself, because we often, call someone and say, okay, go ahead, and then there's no sound, right? So make sure you're prepared to unmute yourself to speak. Yeah, but thank you very much for joining this evening. So those of you who have no questions and you think you've got everything you need, you're free to leave the meeting. But those of you who want to ask questions, pick my brains, please do so. Okay, so go ahead.
All right, thank you so much, May. And before we proceed with the live Q&A, so everyone just raise your hand and we will allow you to unmute your mic. Okay, so before that, just would like to inform everyone, especially those who will be taking a computer delivered IELTS test or who are still undecided if you would like to take IELTS on computer or paper. Please stay with us until the end of the session. Of course, if you only have time, because we will play some video tutorials about IELTS on computer. All right, and then I think we have one raising his or her hand. I'm sorry. Before that, I have a question for May. This is from Kim Abinio. I'm not sure if he's still around, he or she is still around. Okay, he's still around. The question is there a different topic and way of answering writing task 1 for academic and general training?
Okay, Kim, is that right? That's an interesting question because I actually went through how you're supposed to do task 1 for academic and how you're supposed to do task 1 for general training. They're both very different. So yeah, they're actually not the same way of answering, right?
Okay, I think Kim, you can refer back on the handout that we have provided. I think all the tips is included on that.
Yeah, and writing
included on that handout. Yeah.
Writing task 1 general training is writing a letter. Writing task 1 academic is writing about information given to you. Okay,
great. Thank you so much. May please hang in there, Raisa. One more. So what is the difference between the question in writing task 2, do you agree or disagree? And to what extent do you agree? That's from Roy Rodolfo Tarantin.
Sorry, the question.
What is the difference between the question in writing task 2? So the question is, do you agree or disagree? And the difference between to what extent do you agree?
Okay, so good question. To what extent do you agree or disagree means that you agree somewhat. You can refer to both agree and disagree. Whereas if it just says, do you agree or disagree, you can just sort of choose, one to be more one side, right? So you agree, mostly agree, right? Which means you disagree. But to what extent means you have to state how much you agree versus how much you disagree. Do you see the difference? It's kind of a, how would I explain it? It gives you more room to say, you agree and disagree, but a little more on one side than the other, something like that. But even if it's just a straight agree or disagree, you still have to present the opposite side and then say, why is it you don't, but they're very similar, but I think in most cases you have to mention the agree and the disagree. Okay, you have to kind of comment on that. All right. Does that help you, Roy?
Yes, hopefully. Yes. All right. Yes, he said yes. Okay, now can we have Raisa Varinia? Hi, Raisa. Please unmute your mic. All right.
Hello, can you hear me well?
Yes.
You're very soft, so if you can.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Am I audible now? Is it better?
You are. Just keep talking, otherwise we still can't hear you.
Okay. So I actually already wrote my question in the text box.
Sorry, you're fading out a little bit.
Okay, so my answer would be regarding task 2 and the writing style. As it was mentioned before that we're not supposed to use speaking style. Does that mean that we shouldn't write rhetorical questions? Because usually
yes, no rhetorical questions, absolutely none. Rhetorical questions are not good writing technique, whether it's for IELTS or any kind of writing generally.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem. She said rhetorical questions, meaning questions that you asked is like we saw in the example where you ask a question back to your audience. Yeah, that's not helpful. Yeah, sometimes people use it in speaking, but it's not helpful for writing. Okay. Thanks for that question, Raisa. Anyone else?
Thank you so much, May. Anyone else? For those who had been asking for the handouts, we already shared it earlier. So I'm about to send it again in the chat box. Please save it on your desktop. Thank you. There is one here, May I see the slides on general writing task 1 again? I think I missed that.
General task 1. Okay.
General writing task 1.
General writing task 1. Okay, sorry, I'm going to take a while to go back here.
Yeah.
All right, are there any other questions in the meantime?
So far, there's another one. It's from anonymous attendee. So I hope he's still here or he or she's still here. So for task 2 prompt, if your opinion is relatively neutral, what would you do as it is not usual to do so?
Sorry, what was that?
Okay, for task 2 prompt, if your opinion is relatively neutral, what would you do as it is not usual to do so?
Okay, most of the time in essay writing, there's no neutrality. Okay, usually people want to, and in IELTS in particular, they want to know your opinion, which means can you defend an argument, right? So staying neutral is not a solution. Although I do say that even if you heavily only agree with one point of view, you still have to give an explanation of the opposite point of view before you mention why you disagree with that or why you agree with it. You know what I mean? You have to present both points of view still, but you defend the one that you are most, that you prefer. So you should not stay neutral. I don't think they have any questions that allow you to stay neutral, right? Now it's good to stay objective, but objective does not mean neutral, right? Okay, I hope that clarifies.
Okay. Okay, guys, any other questions? I don't see any. Okay, so we have another one. Ronald H. Purba, please unmute your mic.
Hello.
Yes, Ronald.
Hello, Ronald. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm already registered for IELTS test at November, and my question is, how do we to get higher score in academic writing, especially in task 2? Can you give more advice?
Yeah, so
academic writing.
If you look at the handout, I believe that you have the criteria for writing, the band score criteria. So if you're looking for things 7 and higher, you read the criteria and see whether you actually can meet that or not. Okay, so even Ria, for your question of band 7.5 and above, the key is to actually to read the criteria and know what they want and then try to meet that, right? So as I said, so for task achievement, to get a 7 and above, you need to give good arguments and good explanations and detailed examples and so on, right? If you're too general, you won't get a good score on that. So your discussion must also be at a higher level of discussion. If your argument, is kind of non-committal, or as someone said, neutral, that's not going to get you a good score, right? For vocabulary, you need to be using academic words, especially if you're doing the academic test. So more sophisticated vocabulary, some use of idioms, not casual idioms, but just idioms, and sort of more control over your sentence structure, complex sentence structure. So if you look at the criteria, so let me show you here, right? You can even go online and just type out what IELTS band score writing criteria, right? So let's say writing criteria. So here are the band scores. Okay, so you want to know, for example, in writing, let's say writing task 2, if you want a band 7, right? So what do you need for task response? You need to answer all parts of the task, present a clear position. So the person who asked the question about neutrality, this should answer your question. You must have a clear position. If you take a neutral route, it's not a position, right? Present, extends, and supports main ideas. But if you overgeneralize too much, or you lack focus in your ideas, like your argument is not well constructed, you can get no higher than a 7 for task response. Coherence and cohesion here, if if you don't use enough of the, however, in other, what do you call it? In contrast with, similar to, right? If you don't use enough cohesive devices and a range of them, then you cannot get 7 and above. Okay. Lexical resource. As I said before, you must have some style and collocation, use of collocation, less common lexical items, meaning the words that you use are not your everyday, very common words, right? So as I said, for task 1, my comparison was like, if you look at the graph and the charts and, you say go up and go down, those are very simple words, right? But if you said increased marginally, decreased significantly, and use the word significantly, that shows a lot higher level of vocabulary control, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So do you see the difference? And I'm not sure whether your handout has it, but you may have some examples of higher level ones that you can look at. But generally, if you want to know, let's say, oh, what's a 9, right? So 9 here, it says fully addresses, presents fully developed position, answers the question with relevant, fully extended, and well-supported ideas, right?
Is there any difference if we says I have strong argument, but in the structure and vocabulary I'm low?
Okay, so as I said, each of these components is 25%, right? So everything's divided by 4. So you could have a high score for task response, but lower scores for the others, then they just take an average. Right? So if you have like 7 and then 6, 6, 6, right? Then you're more of a 6 than a 7. So they just average it out for the overall. But there are some, if you're talking about academic, for example, some universities actually state that you have to have minimum scores in each section. So they might say that you can have an overall of 7, but every component must be 7, or no less than 7. You know what I mean? Because some people can have like 2 6s and 2 7s, and that might give, that would give them a 6.5. But let's say they have 3 7s, 1 6. But if the university says they need 7s in all the components, it means that if you have 1 6, that's it. You don't get in. Okay, so you have to check with the institutions that you're applying to whether they need you to have minimum band scores for each component, or whether they just accept what we call the global score, like overall you get a 7. Okay. Does that help?
Okay, it's helpful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And then I have another quick thing here for you. If you need, you can just type in linking words for IELTS or something like that. Just a list, and then you can just click on it. Where is it? Linking words. actually not just linking words. For example, agreement and disagreement, right? So you can go to this. Oh, sorry, where are we? So you can just go online and find these. Where is it? My internet is not working, something. Oh, this one. Okay, so for example, agreeing and disagree. Okay, no, this is mostly speaking. Sorry. Let me find one that is more to do with
Can you share screen?
hello?
Hello?
Yeah, are you okay? Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm just looking for linking words, academic writing. Okay, so if you look for this, for example, here's one. So you can go to any, just type it into Google, linking words and transitional words. So this one, for example, can you see it? So if you say cause as a result of, because, compared with, by contrast, although, as a result of, so you see that this website can give you here. So let me send this to you in the chat. Okay. So this is supposed to help with this is supposed to help with coherence and cohesion, okay, if you know how to use them. Okay.
Okay.
That's just some
Thank you.
advice. Okay.
Okay, so
Ivanka?
anyone else? I think yeah, Ivanka. Maybe this is the last one. Ivanka, you may unmute your mic now.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I would like to ask about the writing task 1. We were asked to write an overview. Is it the same like a conclusion, or is it not? Thank you.
Sorry, can you say that again?
We are asked to write an overview in writing task 1. Is it the same as a conclusion or not?
Okay, the overview is not the conclusion. The conclusion is the paragraph. The overview is a sentence that is like your main idea sentence, or what we call the thesis statement. In essay writing, we have a thesis statement, which is the main point of either the whole essay or the main point of a paragraph. Okay, does that make sense? So the overview in task 1 is for the task 1 academic is for you to give an overall sort of statement that covers all the trends that you see in the data that's given to you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. I think that's all for tonight. I don't see anyone raising their hand. Oh, there's another one. Are you okay to take that last
Sure.
one, me? Okay.
Before okay, so the person can come on now, but someone asked me, what does it mean, clear progression? What does that mean in the criteria? Clear progression just means moving your argument forward. So, so there must be a systematic organization of your paragraph, so that, for example, if you say that, okay, there are 2 reasons for this, then one paragraph should be, the first reason is, and then the second paragraph should be, or the third paragraph, whatever, is the next reason is. So you see there's a flow. So I think maybe flow is similar to progression. Does that help, Lily? You were asking? Okay, so anyway, okay, sorry, back to who was asking, whose hand was up.
Actually, that's Lily. I'm not sure if it's Lily or Lila.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. Okay, so
Yeah,
I hope I've answered that question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Who's that?
that's Lily.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
Lily.
yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think
have problem. Yeah, Lily, actually, it's Lily. Thank you. I have problem with my microphone and my speaker. So could you please repeat?
you mean repeat what I just said about the progression? So
Yeah,
progression is
please.
like flow of your argument and
Yes.
logic. You know, what part of the argument comes first, then what comes next. So, so for example, if you're writing about problem and solution, you almost always write about the problem first, then you offer the solution, right? So that's what we mean. And then, you know, if there's a logic like your, for example, process writing, which is first you do this, then next you do that, then it
Yeah.
must be in the correct order, right? So,
Yeah.
so your paragraphs have to have logical order. That's what it means.
Yeah.
Like you're not
Okay,
jumping,
great.
you know, one thing, then you jump to something else, right?
So it's kind of easy for the reader to follow what you
That's right. And
are writing.
if you talk about similarities first, then after that you say contrasts, right? Then people can see, oh, okay, first you're presenting similarities, then you're presenting contrast, right?
Right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Are you
Yep.
okay, May? We have one
Yeah.
more. Patsy.
Yep, there were two hands up, I think, yeah.
I saw one. It's Pat. Hi, Pat.
Can you hear me?
How come I can't see it? Wait.
Yes.
Yeah,
Can you
go
hear
ahead.
me?
Yes,
Can you
yes,
hear
we
me?
can hear you.
Great.
Yes, go ahead.
I just follow about the student and also you answer about the score that is required from the university. If some component is below the expected requirement, so is the student just enroll for the partly papers, or I need to go for all the section? I mean, the writing, reading.
Yeah. So
Oh.
IELTS does not offer the different components separately. So you cannot sign up for, say, the speaking test without doing the writing test. So every time you sign up, you do all four things together.
The second time, I mean.
Yes. So if
Okay.
you don't get what the level the university wants, you have to redo the entire thing over again.
Make sure everything is.
Yeah, so the best is to make sure you are competent at the level
Okay.
that they want for all of the levels. Yeah, I mean for all the components. Okay.
Thank you.
Does that help? Yeah. All the best. There was one more, right?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, no more.
No more.
There's
Oh, wait,
one in the.
Hartono? Yeah, I saw. So
Yeah.
Hartono, you're asking about task 1, where you should write the overview. As I said before, you know, that a lot of people put the overview in the conclusion, but you can also put it in the introductory paragraph. Because if you put it there, then you can't miss it. Sometimes people find that if they wait till the conclusion, they either forget to put it in or they don't have time to put it in because maybe they don't have time to write the conclusion properly. Okay. And then the other one, I think, did you answer that? The one about how long the results are?
Yes, I
valid?
did.
Is
I
it
just
2
did.
years?
Yes, it's valid for 2 years.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it.
Yes, I think that's it for tonight. So thank you so much once again. Thank you so much, May. And yeah, and thank you so much, William, for staying and answering the questions in the chat box and in the Q&A as well. And yeah, before we play the video tutorials for IELTS on computer, do you have any last few words or advice for our participants today, May?
No, but as I think it's good if you always practice your reading, listening, you know, watch programs in English, read books in English. You need to immerse yourself in the English language if you want to improve. Language is, you know, everything together. It's not sort of individual parts. So that's why the test is not offered in parts either, right? So all the best to all of you and good luck and work hard, because the more you prepare for the test, the better you will be. Okay. Take care and stay safe, everybody. And yes, please stick around to watch this video.
Yes, thank you so much once again. And yeah, the videos will be played one by one. So basically, there's a computer delivered IELTS welcome tutorial, and then for the listening, reading, and writing as well.
Yeah.
So stay with us. Thank you, everyone, and good night.
Thanks, Lilette. Thanks, William.
Delivered IELTS Tutorial 1. This tutorial will show you how to complete and prepare. Tab. This will give you information about the task you are currently doing. If you click on Test Help, you will see information about how the test works. If you wish, you can also highlight Welcome to our computer-delivered IELTS Tutorial 1. This tutorial will show you how to complete and prepare for computer-delivered IELTS. For each section, there's a clock at the top of the screen, which tells you how much time you have left. For the reading and writing tests, the clock will turn red and flash when you have 10 and 5 minutes left. The tests will automatically stop when the time finishes. The instructions for each part are in the box at the top of the screen. You can use the navigation bar at the bottom of the screen to move from one question to the next. Click on the number to go to that question. You can also click on the forward arrow to go to the next question, or the back arrow to go to the previous question. When you have answered the question, a line will appear under that question in the navigation bar. You can click on Review if you want to look at the question again later. The question number will be shown as a circle. You can review and change your answers at any time until the end of the test. Click on the yellow arrow if you want to make the navigation bar smaller. You can use the scroll bar to see all the questions. In each of the tests, you can change the screen settings. To do this, click on the Settings tab at the top of the screen. You can change the size and color of the text. In each of the tests, there is a Help tab. If you click on the Help tab, this will give you information about the task you are currently doing. If you click on Test Help, you will see information about how the test works. If you wish, you can also highlight sections of text. If you need to leave the test room for a few minutes, you can hide your screen by clicking on the Hide tab. When you return to the test room, click on the Resume Test button. That is the end of the introduction tutorial for computer-delivered IELTS. Check out the IDP IELTS YouTube channel for tutorial videos for listening, reading and writing. For the listening test, you can change the volume by using the volume bar in the top right at any time during the test. For each part of the listening test, you will hear the recording once only. Some parts of the test have more than one type of question. Each type of question has its own instructions. In the listening test, listen carefully for the part number and question numbers to make sure you are looking at the right screen. For some questions, you need to write your answer in the gap. For some questions, you need to choose which diagram label, A, B, C, etc., is correct for which item listed in the table. For each question, click on the correct space in the table. For some questions, you need to click on an answer and move it into the gap. If you want to change an answer, move another answer into the gap. If you want to leave the question unanswered, move the question back. And for some questions, you need to move an answer into a gap on a diagram. At the end of the listening test, you'll have 2 minutes to check all of your answers. The tests will automatically stop when the time finishes. In the reading test, the text appears on the left and the questions on the right. To see all the text and the questions, you'll need to use both scroll bars. For some questions, you need to choose an answer. If you want to change your answer, click on a new answer. If you want to leave a question unanswered, click on the answer again. To look at the next question, just click on the question itself. For some questions, you need to choose more than one answer. If you want to change any of your answers, click on the answer you want to change and then click on your new answer. If you want to leave any of the questions unanswered, click on the answer again. For some questions in the reading test, you need to choose which paragraph or section contains the information listed in the table. Remember to scroll to read all the text. For each question, click on the correct space in the table. If you want to change an answer, click on your new answer. If you want to leave the question unanswered, click on the answer again. For some questions in the reading test, you need to click on a heading for a paragraph or section and move it into the gap. If you want to change your answer, move another heading into the gap. If you want to leave the question unanswered, move the heading back. And for some questions, you need to write your answer on a gap in a diagram. If you wish, you can also highlight sections of text. To do this, left-click and drag your cursor over the section of text or question you wish to highlight. Then right-click and select the highlight option. To remove highlighting from the text, right-click on the highlighted area and select Clear. If you wish to remove all highlighting from the screen, right-click on a highlighted area and select Clear All. You can also make notes on a section of text. To do this, left-click and drag the cursor over the section of text or question you want to make notes about. Then right-click and select the Notes option. Your chosen section of text will be highlighted and a yellow notepad will appear. You can write your notes on this. Click on the cross in the notepad to hide your notes. To see your notes again, click on the highlighted section of text. If you want to see which areas of highlighted text have notes, move the cursor slowly over each area of highlighted text. If a small orange box appears, it means that the highlighted text contains notes. To remove notes from text or questions, right-click on the highlighted area and select Clear. There are two parts to the writing test, Part 1 and Part 2. You can answer the parts in either order. You write your answer in the space on the right of the screen. Your answers are saved automatically. You do not need to press Enter on your keyboard. For the reading and writing tests, the clock will turn red and flash when you have 10 and 5 minutes left.